Let me ask you a question. You enjoy taking photographs, yeah? Of course you do. Easy question. So, you're a photographer, are you? Ooh, well, I wouldn't call myself a photographer, but why is it that we have that reaction a lot of the times when we get asked and kind of put on the spot to say whether or not we're a proper photographer? Well, answering that question is what today's video is all about. So a few videos ago, I promised that I would try and inject some personal stuff into this video and kind of not make it dry and boring and factual. And that's what I'm going to try and do with this video and the next one that I've got planned. And one of the things that I think we all struggle with, and I know that I have in the past, is feeling worthy of the title of photographer. How do we give our images and the fact that we take the time to do them, how do we give that a value and feel worthy to call ourselves photographers and feel that the images that we produce and the work that we do has a value to the wider world? To figure this out, I need to tell you my story, and it goes back 10 years. So let's rewind to 2008 when I'm well, not even a young photographer, to be perfectly honest with you. I was 34 years old in 2008, and I'd bought an SLR and I was learning how to use it, and I was becoming a bit more proficient. And I loved wildlife, but the way that I used to practice when I started out was I used to go to my local zoo. I'll leave the ethical questions around zoos for another video, but let's just say that for a budding photographer who's interested in nature and wildlife, they're a pretty good place to practice the basics of how to focus properly, how to expose images properly. So I spent a good couple of years quite happily snapping away at my local zoo. I'll show you some of the images that I took from that period. But the problem was, after a couple of years, I started to hit the limitations of what I was doing. I'd pretty much shot all the interesting images there were to shoot. I'd practiced and practiced. I'd got pretty good at shooting in a zoo environment, but making it seem as though the animal was in a more natural environment, excluding wire and glass and man-made structures from my images. Once I'd figured that out, and there were only so many angles to work with, I just found myself shooting the same thing over and over again. And I had a really nagging sense that what I was doing just didn't really amount to very much. My friends liked the pictures, my family liked the pictures. I'd put them on Facebook or Flickr. I even went as far as printing a few, and I made a calendar for friends and family. But none of this really amounted to very much. What was I doing? What was the worth of these images to the wider world? What was the point of spending this time other than just to amuse myself? I can say with certainty there is absolutely no way, if asked, that I would have called myself a photographer. But around that time, a series of events happened, kind of by accident, that changed my photography journey forever and set me on the path to where I am today. At the time, I was working at a creative design agency, and I happened on my PC at work to have an image that I'd shot that I'd set as my desktop wallpaper. And it was an image that I'd shot at Marwell Zoo of a snow leopard. And the guy there, who was the creative director, happened by my desk one day, and he saw my PC and he said, "Hey, is that snow leopard? That's a pretty good picture, that." And I said, "Oh yeah, I kind of shoot zoo photography at the weekends, it's just a hobby." And he said to me, "I'm quite a keen supporter of the Snow Leopard Trust. They're based in the States. I reckon they'd be interested in that image of yours. Have you got any others?" And my instant reaction was, "Oh, don't be stupid. You know, they've got a million people sending them images, and why would they be interested in my stupid little zoo photos?" But he said, No, you should really try. You've got nothing to lose. Send them your pictures." And the guy was a creative director. I trusted his judgment on artistic merit. So, without any thought that anything would happen, that's what I did. So I sent my pictures off by email to the Snow Leopard Trust in Seattle. And I said, "Here you go, guys. I've shot these at a local zoo. If you can use them for anything, you know, it'd be amazing if you did." And I didn't hear anything for several months. And I thought, yeah, thought so. I'm not that good. I'm not up to that standard. And then one day, out of the blue, I got an email. And the email said, "Thanks for sending us your pictures. We're just about to produce our annual report for 2008, and we've selected one of your images to be in our annual report. As a thank you, we'll send you a copy of it so you can see how your image turned out. Now, I was expecting that image to be, one of the small inset images somewhere in the middle of that publication. But instead, a couple of weeks later, a package arrived from Seattle, and I was amazed to find that what I received was this. And this was my image on the cover of the 2008 Snow Leopard Trust annual report. And this was like a bolt from the blue, because this was a worldwide known conservation charity who were prepared to use my work and have it represent them and represent snow leopards. And it was there. It was a commercial organisation, or a commercial organisation, an NGO. But here was my image used by a leading conservation charity, and feeling that my image was worthy enough to actually be on the cover. So that in itself changed how I would feel about my work forever. So then I thought maybe that would be the end of it. But it turned out it was just the beginning, because I was kind of enthused by what had happened. So I took some more images of snow leopards, and I sent them off to the trust and said, hey, I've made some more. If you can use these, go for it. And a couple of years went by, and I don't think anything major happened in that time. So again, I kind of forgot about it until one day the trust got in touch again. And they said, this time we're producing our annual calendar. And by this time it was 2011. And they said, we've selected a couple of your images to be in our calendar. And this was a big deal because, the annual report was one thing, but this was effectively a product that they sold, and they sold quite a lot of copies of it. And my work was good enough to go in there. That's one of the images that made it in. And that's the other one. And the thing that was really amazing about this was that this was my work alongside other photographers' work, that I guess in some way I could compare myself to. And there were some really amazing photographers featured in here. Jack Wonderly, Stephen Oakes, people that I followed on social media, people that I looked up to, people who were professional. And here I was alongside them. And that felt very weird, but it also felt pretty good as well. So the trust used a few of my images for other things over time. But the final part of the puzzle with this was that another organisation here in the UK got in touch with the Snow Leopard Trust wanting to use snow leopard images, and the trust put them in touch with me. And that led to a relationship that I had with a charity called the People's Trust for Endangered Species. And what they wanted was an image of mine. Actually, it's the same image as the one from the annual report cover. It's just the colour version rather than black and white. And what they wanted was to turn this into a Christmas card that they sold. And so here was my image. I'd gone from a proper corporate kind of usage of an image to being featured alongside other photographers who I respected and admired, to my work actually being able to be sold as a product and actually have a financial value. And those were three amazing things. The other thing they were was the beginning of me creating a network, because I had a really great relationship with the Snow Leopard Trust, and I had a really great relationship with the People's Trust for Endangered Species. And that opened some doors, that led to other things happening. But what it did more than anything else was it allowed me to feel that I could call myself a photographer. So my message for you is, don't be afraid to get out there and put your work in front of people. It helps enormously for your images to have a purpose. If you can envisage how someone might use your image in a positive way to do some good in the world. I think it's really important that you think about somebody other than yourself using your images and doing something valuable with them. The feeling of worth that gives you as a photographer is amazing. And I've gone on to do lots of things. I've had images published in national newspapers, I run workshops, I've sold prints, I've sold books. But I'll be honest with you, I don't think anything will ever be as special again as those original little snow leopard zoo images that got me started and made me feel like a proper photographer. So I hope that's given you some inspiration to get out there, use your images, find a purpose for them, and find your own worth as a photographer, because we all have it within us. So that's just my little personal story to share with you. I hope it's a bit of an inspiration for you. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, please do so. Got lots more amazing content coming up and you'll be the first to find out about it. But in the meantime, take care, go safe,